Hi everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Genre Equality Podcast on the Genre Equality channel. My name is
I'm
Hitzir.
Hadi.
I'm Isa.
We got a lot to talk about this month, particularly one big blockbuster out in cinemas. Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. It's out. It's kind of killing the competition.
Oh yeah.
Destroyed
It's
Black
kind
Adam.
of
Yeah.
destroyed Black Adam, destroyed the Fablemans, destroyed Strange World. This has been the worst month in at least Hollywood box office history.
Oh wow.
And it would have been even worse if Black Panther Wakanda Forever wasn't there to kind of prop everything up.
Yeah.
Everything else has been like a major failure, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Plus, we'll talk about lots of good stuff on TV as well. Andor, the latest Star Wars series, just recently wrapped up. Interview the Vampire, also recently finished. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, a very quirky, funny one-off on Disney Plus. We'll all talk about that. Hadi recently went to the cinemas to watch things like Don't Worry, Darling, and he'll let us know what that's about. Isa went on to Netflix to watch Wednesday,
Oh, yeah.
so he'll let us know how Jenna Ortega's performance and the show is in there. I'll bring you through some stuff I saw on VOD, like Barbarian, which I really, really liked. Other stuff on TV, like Let the Right One In, 1899, Strange World, Disenchanted, and much, much more. Let's begin, though, on a bit of a downer note. November has been like a rough month for the geek community, particularly, I suppose, millennials and above who kind of grew up with two of the names that we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
Just recently, over the past couple of weeks, the great Batman himself, the voice of Batman, Kevin Conroy, passed away. Alongside more shocking news recently, just last weekend, the passing of Jason David Frank, better known as the Green Ranger, aka the White Ranger from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fame, passed away. Let's begin with Kevin Conroy first,
man.
who is no past tense, not was, is
Is.
the voice of Batman,
Exactly.
and will forever be the voice of Batman. He is the voice that you hear when you read comic books. When I'm reading a Tom King graphic novel or whatever, I hear Kevin Conroy in my head. I don't hear Christian Bale. I don't hear Michael Keaton. I don't hear anyone else. Kevin Conroy is the voice of Batman for a couple of generations, and he will continue to be the voice of Batman. Whether you play the games, whether you watch the animated series, he was the one that really defined the character of Batman for me, at least as a kid.
Yeah.
Superheroes were obviously born on the comics page, a visual medium, but my first real introduction to the lore of Batman was through the animated series, and I'm sure a lot of kids were the same. On a Saturday morning, watching the cartoons, getting engrossed in the world. And the late Kevin Conroy is Batman. Like, again, I don't say that in the past tense because he'll always be the voice of Batman. Let's begin with you, Hadi.
Sure.
What are your memories, or what do you think about the legacy of Kevin Conroy as the voice of Batman? And he has done other things as well, of course, but he's best known for Batman. So yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts about his passing, his legacy, his work, stuff like that?
I mean, the 1992 to 1995 Batman animated series was my first introduction to Batman. And I mean, he famously voiced Batman through that and through a lot of other mediums as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably the longest running Batman actor.
Most probably, yeah. Him and I guess Mark Hamill for Joker lah.
Yes.
Yeah, because Mark Hamill also was in the Batman animated series Joker, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
For its entirety.
exactly. So like both of them, I feel are very integral, and Kevin Conroy has that voice that, I mean, when you see a Batman's voice, it's not Christian Bale, it's not any of these other actors. It's really Kevin Conroy's voice that you hear in your head, right?
Yeah.
And it's just so iconic that it's just it's no surprise that he played Batman on Batgirl. Was it Batgirl?
Batwoman.
Oh, Batwoman. Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also famously for the first time appeared live action as Batman on Crisis on Infinite
That
Earths,
too,
the
exactly.
CW crossover.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also, that was a kind of a cool Easter egg, I guess, lah, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, again, his voice defines the character, and I think you're right. It's not was, he will always be the voice of Batman, and it's a very sad passing, because DC animation has been one of the best things about DC superhero stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they always
Yeah.
went back to Kevin Conroy whenever they needed a Batman.
Mhm.
You know, so he's going to be missed, man. Like, honestly, nobody can do it the way. I mean, everybody will just be a pale imitation compared to him, lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel.
Yeah. What about you, Isa?
Oh man. Same as you guys. Like all of us growing up, Batman the animated series is the definitive Batman franchise, right? Like a defining kind of iconic performance of an entire generation. You know, any of
Yep.
us who kind of grew up in that time, like that's basically how we knew the character. I think in addition to what both of you have already shared, what I will always fondly remember about Kevin Conroy's Batman, it will always be that it has not only stood the test of time to be the most iconic, just in terms of his voice, but in terms of like how nuanced his Batman is and how consistently he played that Batman over, you know, the animated series, Mask of the Phantasm, you know, the new Batman Adventures, all the way into like the Justice League animated series and stuff like that. Right?
Yep.
It was a consistent and nuanced and well-rounded representation of what most people understand to be the Batman character. And that's something that we've sorely lacked in almost anything that has come out since. Right. In particular, the live action movies, you know, and Kevin having had that long run time of like God knows how much screen time, right? To kind of like nuance and work and grow that character has been a blessing to Batman fans, you know, all around the world. So he will be sorely missed, and we will continue to remember him as the one true Dark Knight.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Conroy had a reputation for being especially gracious to fans during his convention
Yes.
appearances.
Yes.
Even as we know, his health began to worsen in recent years. If you don't know, he passed away of cancer. You had the sense that playing Batman was more than a paycheck to him, and that it was an opportunity to connect with a community that helped build him and his work alongside him. Conroy may be gone, but as long as there is a Batman, and there will always be a Batman,
Yeah.
his voice will continue to bring people together. More shockingly, though, even more than Kevin Conroy, who we sort of knew the writing was on the wall. He was very, very ill for a long
He
time.
was.
Someone that we did not expect to be passing away so soon was Jason David Frank,
Yeah.
the longtime Power Ranger. Passed away at the age of 49 due to he took his own life, essentially. He was best known as Tommy Oliver in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series. The show was his acting debut, and he would serve as the Green and then the later White Ranger for the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series. And though he was only meant to appear for 14 episodes, he became so popular, that he will continue to play Tommy for later Power Rangers seasons, like Power Rangers Zeo, Turbo Red, Dino Thunder Black, along with many appearances in anniversary specials. There is no Power Ranger better known than Tommy, and that was Jason David Frank. I mean, for myself and Hardy as well, we do know him slightly as
MMA guy.
as an undefeated MMA fighter, 4-0 amateur, 1-0 pro.
Pro. Yeah.
He spent his last few years calling out CM Punk, and let's be honest, he would have beaten him.
Yes, he would.
Like very, very easily. And I was always very annoyed with CM Punk for like, oh, I don't do celebrity freak show fights.
Please.
Bro, you're going to get your ass kicked by the Green Ranger. You just didn't want that to happen.
Jason David Frank was a lifelong martial artist. Please.
Yeah, exactly. He
Yes,
had like he had what, like 6 martial arts under his belt.
He was a karate guy, a taekwondo guy, judo guy.
He invented his own martial arts.
Jiu-jitsu guy. Yeah. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he ran out of things to learn.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm gonna do a new one.
Exactly.
But yeah, Jason David Frank was such a iconic figure in my youth. In particular, I think everyone in primary school remembers season 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and that fucking Green Ranger arc was the tits, man.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was
Absolutely.
the most
Come on.
engrossed I have ever been in a live action show at that age, like, you know. It was like, who is this mysterious guy? Where did he come from? He kicked all the main characters' asses very easily.
Exactly.
and then he was redeemed. He joined the crew. He became an essential member of it, to the point where they wanted to do spin-off shows just based on him. He was the franchise for the longest time. So yeah, obviously Jason David Frank has done other things outside Power Rangers, but I personally know him as the Green Ranger. I don't even want to call him the White Ranger. Like that Green Ranger arc is so fucking
Awesome.
killer, you know,
Yeah.
so awesome.
With that flute.
Yeah, yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
All of us still
let's
remember it.
yeah. Let's begin with you, Isa. What are your memories about Jason David Frank, and what do you think about his passing here?
Oh man. I think for me, pretty much similar to you, right? Like watching Power Rangers on TV as a kid, being kind of like obsessed with this strange new Power Ranger that comes. The review of him as Green Ranger, as the heel, and then the eventual reveal of him as a White Ranger, like later on as well. Right? We used to have this VHS of the original Power Rangers movie, and we used to watch that to death. So much so, like we spoiled the tape, right?
Yeah.
And like
Mhm.
Jason David Frank was such a big part of those like kind of key memories. You know, even as Power Rangers kind of made a a comeback, I guess, right, with the kind of like gritty fan reboots that was floating around the internet for some time and things like that. You know, it was always to me because like we never got like full like Jason David Frank Green Ranger or White Ranger thing out of that. That felt like what was lacking, right? Like he's been such a big part of the franchise and the
Yes.
identity of the Power Rangers that
Yep.
you know that was really what I was kind of like waiting and kind of gunning for. So rest in power.
Yeah, man.
Definitely. What about you, Hadi? What are your thoughts?
I mean, Tommy was cool. Okay.
Yeah.
He made me like the Red Ranger a lot less because he came onto the scene.
Oh yeah.
You know? Just for like scope, right? He had been in Power Rangers since 1993 till 2018. That was how
Insane.
long he has been in Power Rangers, you know. As a
Yeah.
series regular, he was actually in also I mean apart from the originals and you know the he was also in Zeo, he was also in Turbo, you know,
Yep.
and then he came on back again as a voice character in 2004. Like
Yeah.
this guy was just he is the Power Ranger, lah, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he had a cool. He was a lifelong martial artist. He had really good like. He never gave like. He was a real what do you call those people? He was an influencer of his time, lah. You know, like he was those kind of real life superhero as well. You know, like he really did a lot for kids growing up and all that stuff. You know, he never gave you like bad advice and all that. He kind of I mean, you know, even with his like tattoos and weird hair and all that, right? He always was a good guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He never really made a lot of like, you know, those bad decisions when you are those kind of like young teen actors at the beginning.
Yep.
And then you like make those bad decisions like in the future of your later half of your career. He didn't really do that. You know, he was always a very focused, disciplined martial artist. And I think you know, he's gonna be missed, man. Just like Kevin Conroy, like, yeah, this was another guy that really influenced your childhood, you know.
Yeah.
Their timelines were remarkable, actually.
Yeah.
Like, you know, one 1992, one 1993, and they haven't stopped essentially until their deaths.
Exactly.
Being their characters.
Yeah, agreed. And yeah, lah. So it's a huge loss to the world, and I know I hope yeah, lah, he rests well lah now.
Yeah, definitely, man. Condolences to the friends and family, of course, of Jason David Frank
Yeah.
and Kevin Conroy. We'll miss them both greatly. I actually went to rewatch the first Mighty Morphin
Same.
Power Rangers movie
Yeah.
because of Jason David Frank's passing. Yeah, there was a rough week.
It
I
was.
was you know on the high of full gear, as Hadi would know, when I learned of his passing.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of mixed emotions that night. But yeah, let's move on though to the reviews. Let's begin with, I think, quite easily the biggest title that we have that we're talking about here.
Yeah. Hands down.
Let's talk about Black Panther 2: Wakanda Forever. A sequel to the multi-billion-dollar grossing Black Panther. This time, a film with significantly more challenges than the first one.
Sure.
Particularly it has to deal with the passing of Chadwick Boseman,
Yeah.
and how they would do it in storyline. I was about to say in kayfabe. How they were supposed to handle it in storyline, and I think they handled the grief and the mourning and the celebration of Chadwick Boseman very, very well.
Yeah.
But also they had to handle the introduction of this big new thing into Marvel continuity or MCU continuity,
Mm-hmm.
the introduction of Namor, and the introduction of Atlantis, now renamed Talokan,
Yeah.
taking after many Mayan and Aztec symbology
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. The Latino Wakanda, shall we say?
Yes.
In a way.
Underwater. Yeah, in a way. So let's begin with I think the most positive of us for Black Panther
Oh,
or Wakanda
yes, man.
Forever. Yeah, let's begin with Hadi, man. What are your thoughts about this very long film?
Well, it was long.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, it's not a perfect film.
Yep.
But I really enjoyed quite a few aspects of it. Enjoyed might be the wrong word. I love the tribute that was paid to Chadwick Boseman.
Mhm.
Definitely.
I loved the way grief was portrayed throughout a, a huge part of the film.
Consistent theme.
Yeah,
Yep.
through the characters of Angela Bassett and the Queen Ramona and Shuri, right?
Mm.
Shuri, Lupita
And
Nyong'o
Lupita
as
Nyong'o's,
well.
yeah, and what's the Dora Milaje's name?
Oh, Okoye?
Denai Guerrera.
Yeah,
I
Danai
know the
Gurira.
actress's
Yeah,
name. Oh, Okoye. Okoye.
Okoye. Yeah, you know, all
Yep.
their characters all have no Black Panther from different aspects. No, one's as a son, one as a brother, one as a commander, one as a lover, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So all this grief, you know, and all that, it was really well done. I feel by Ryan Coogler and the writers. You know,
Yes.
the the visual stylings of Wakanda is again one something that strikes really well.
Mm-hmm.
The storyline with the introduction of the new vibranium rich Talokan
Yeah.
was interesting. I just wish that we stayed a little more to really get to know Talokan further.
Yep.
You know, I like the relationship between Shuri and Kukulkan Namor.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and I wish that they kind of invested more time in that.
Yeah.
That I feel that that was a bit cut short, and then the third half of the movie I felt was where I was disappointed a bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, which was I think the same thing when I with Black Panther, the first one, where the third half was also the third part of the movie was where the last third, right? Sorry, the
Yep.
last third
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
movie was where the disappointment was again. Like, I felt disappointed like the third half.
Yep.
You said it perfectly because despite your unintentional like math error, it really did feel like a third half. Like it didn't belong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no, exactly. Yeah.
What about you, Isa?
In general, I did enjoy the movie. Like Hadi has already mentioned, I think a lot of the thematic explorations with grief and mourning were very well done.
Yeah.
In particular, I think I would like to shout out Angela Bassett
Oh,
and
Best. Yeah.
yes.
in particular Angela Bassett and her amazingly well-toned shoulder and arms.
Yeah, man.
Wow, I was inspired like to go back and hit the gym because
That
of Angela
UN
Bassett.
meeting, right? When she was.
Yes.
Oh
Oh,
my god.
that dress with the wow. Just like kind of mind blowing, right? And
Yeah.
like just that and her maybe Letitia Wright actually to a lesser extent, but definitely Okoye Danai has is
Mm-hmm.
amazing, right? That scene
Yes.
where they show off in the throne room with everybody
No,
present
that was so sweet.
was like the emotional peak to me
Yeah,
of
it
the entire
was.
movie
Same.
itself.
Agreed.
Uh, Wakanda Forever is an ambitious movie, right? It tries to do a great deal. And I think a lot of that has to do with, of course, the unexpected passing of Chadwick Boseman, may he rest in peace. Um, and you know, just kind of like needing to kind of work that in. I'm very sure that they had different ideas of what this movie would actually be. But I think in addition to that and trying to deal with the death, the fallout of that, the consequences on the nation and its people and its and his loved ones, and trying to usher in Shuri in as the new Black Panther, and trying to bring in like Talokan and Namor, right? Wakanda
Riri
Forever,
Williams. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Riri
and
Williams,
Riri
yeah.
Williams,
I
exactly,
did not
right? Like,
mention
Yeah.
her.
uh,
Yeah.
Wakanda Forever suffers from its own weight. You
Mm.
know, already any one of those particular things would have been meaty and chunky enough to have an entire movie being made about it, much less all of them. You know, and as a result, I do feel that while any moment where for the first two acts, right? Any moment where Black Panther takes its time for character exploration
It
is
worked.
more or less really well done.
Yeah.
Uh, but then when we actually have to get to the point that most audiences are expecting, which is the superhero part of it, right? It feels rushed, and a lot of it feels very unearned, right?
Yeah.
In particular, Hadi and I was chatting before we started recording, right? There were these two parts that are like key peak moments that I felt were really rushed and unearned. In particular, a very out of place arm wrestling match.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Uh, yeah, for the title, and kind of like the peacemaking, right? The pact
Yeah.
making between the two nations at the very end. You know, and I don't know if that's necessarily because there just wasn't enough time to explore those things, or stuff was left on the cutting room floor. You know, but it is an uneven movie
Mm.
overall. But that is not to say that it isn't good. I think for a lot of people coming into this, given like the kind of news that it has made, many people were expecting us to deal with the passing of Chadwick Boseman,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't get the movie that they wanted. And I think this was
Yeah.
very clear because when I went to watch it in the cinema, there were a bunch of like teens, like older teens, sitting behind us,
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch of young families sitting in front of us with like kids, right?
Mm.
Uh, one kid in particular was just like, what is going on? I don't understand any of this. Why is I don't like this movie, right?
Mm.
Because like clearly you shouldn't be bringing your kids to watch Wakanda Forever in the cinemas without explaining to them why they have to deal with the things they're going to deal. And the sentiment of that was like kind of the same, right, for the older teens. A lot of them were uninterested in general with
Mm.
what the major thematic resonance of the film needed to be, as opposed to what they expected it to be. And
Mm.
because of these like um not dissonant necessarily, but because of the unevenness of the differing requirements, right, to make Wakanda Forever like a complete story, it did feel like it could have been several movies. It should have been several
It should be, yeah,
movies.
exactly. I was just
Yeah,
gonna
for
say that.
sure. You know, I feel like Tenoch Huerta is an amazing villain. Maybe one of the best portrayals of a understandable, powerful villain that we've had in the
Mm-hmm.
MCU for some time now.
Mm-hmm.
I
Since Killmonger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
since Killmonger, right? And
Yep.
like I feel like we did his character an injustice by not being able to explore a lot more.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, like we are a lot of things are left up to our imagination, and
Mm-hmm.
while we do get flashbacks and things like that, like it we have to connect the dots, right? Like so much of it is told to us and not shown, you know.
Mm.
And I feel like that was a missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hadi has mentioned, like we didn't nearly get to see enough of Talokan, right? And what we got was beautiful, right?
Exactly. I
But
wanted to
like,
stay.
yeah, but like the culture and who the people are and what the people are about, like we have had an entire movie plus some for to get to know Wakanda, right? But for us to only get like a total of what 10, maybe 15 minutes of Talokan is tragic. It
Yes, it
really,
is.
really is.
Yeah.
And it didn't set up the conflict between the two nations in a way that felt um, essential to the story. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Sure, they did a pretty good job with the power leveling of the nations.
They
I
did.
don't think we've ever seen Wakanda on the back foot like that, even against right
Thanos. Yeah.
Thanos.
Yeah.
Right, at no
Yep.
point in time did we feel like the nation was under threat, and
Mm-hmm.
for the first time we got that. But
Mm-hmm.
because we knew so little of Talokan, and they were this like unknown quantity coming out of nowhere, quite really out of the middle of nowhere, you know, it didn't feel like there were so many opportunities to make this film great. And I don't know if they had the resources or the time to do those things justice. And that, to me, while I did enjoy the movie overall, is its downfall, unfortunately.
Yes. I understand the business decision to make this a film.
Yes,
But this, if anything, should have been a TV show.
Oh yeah,
agreed.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like you were saying, multiple films, right? Like when you watch something like, say, Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Hawkeye, those are things that maybe could have been a 2-hour film.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Or maybe even WandaVision, but actually maybe not WandaVision because of the stylisticness of it.
Yeah,
But this definitely should have been a show. It was too meaty to have been a film.
Yes.
And but I understand the box office decision. I totally understand
for
it.
sure.
This would have been their biggest moneymaker this year, and it did end up being their biggest moneymaker this year. I have a lot of issues with the film. I thought it was both too long and too short at the same time. The issues with pacing. The world building of Talokan was entirely aesthetic and
Yes.
nothing really substantial
Yep.
about it. I don't know how the society works at all.
Yep.
That to me is
Except
like
the salute, they salute each other.
Yeah. The
aesthetics,
Yeah.
the art design, the symbology of it. Okay, cool. I get that. You could have trimmed easily 20 to 30 minutes by cutting out Valentina and Everett Ross,
Oh, yeah.
who played no part in the film at all.
Yep.
I even think Riri Williams shouldn't have been there. There was no excuse for her
Yeah.
to be inserted into this film,
She-
other than the fact that I think they wanted a car chase in an urban area, so Riri was there.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things about this film was very good. A lot of things about it was very bad as well, and it sinks under the weight of its own ambition, pardon the pun. Final thoughts on Wakanda Forever, and give us your ratings. Let's begin with you, Hadi.
Final thoughts is that I agree with you the TV series, but even if they cut the movie into two parts, I think it would be a lot better.
Yeah.
The first part where the grief and all that, and then the Talokan actually wiping out Wakanda, right?
Yeah.
And then the second movie can be the rise and all that stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can have had 6 hours, where you can really develop a really good movie, two movies.
Yeah.
And
It could have easily been rebranded. The first film could have been Black Panther 2 Wakanda. The third film is Black Panther 3 Forever.
exactly something like that.
Yeah.
My ratings, I'm a bit generous, I feel, but because I really love the three and Lupita's, Danai, and Angela Bassett's performances,
Oh yeah.
I feel that it is a 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Like, even though the third last part of the film does disappoint me a bit, but I feel those three performances by those three actors were like Oscar worthy kind of stuff,
Yeah.
What about you, Isa?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like so many of these things, or so many of these threads could. I hope that
I
they
hope so too.
explore that in future movies.
Yeah.
Even if they shoehorn it into all the other movies, I'm okay with that as well.
Make a
Like-
Disney Plus special.
Yeah, for sure. And but I know that's unlikely to happen because right now Wakanda Forever stands as the only piece of the MCU at the moment that is inward looking, right? Everyone else is looking to other dimensions, other universes, right? We're looking outward and we're looking at threats that are external, and this is the only one that we have on the slate at the moment that is internally looking. And I feel that is going to get lost as soon as we start going with Quantumania and all of
To
that.
Phase 5.
Yeah. So again, like a lot of flaws, not a perfect movie, but I think for its the good parts and its strengths alone, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 as well.
Cool. I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. Pretty much in line with my co-host, just slightly lower only. Let's move on to, I think, something I'm not sure because I haven't really talked to you guys outside of the podcast, but I think that we all love. I hope, fingers crossed, we'll see. Let's talk about Andor,
Let's
the latest Star
go.
Wars series on Disney Plus.
We hated it. No lah.
No.
Andor, as its name implies, is the origin story of Cassian Andor, who we first met in Rogue One. This is a prequel to Rogue One, and it is distinctive in the Star Wars universe for being quite easily the most adult, sophisticated, politically complex, mature Star Wars property I've seen since,
Rogue One.
hey, guess what? Rogue One. Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as I loved Clone Wars and Rebels and, stuff like that, like, I do have to say that, and Mendo too. I do have to say that Andor is quite far and away the best Star Wars TV show that I have ever seen.
Yes.
Like, by a bit of, by a huge margin.
Yeah.
I would even go so far as to say that Andor outranks, in my opinion, Rogue One right now as the best thing I've seen in Star Wars in general. Um, I know a lot of people are gonna push back on that, Empire Strikes Back, etc., blah blah blah. I've been quite open in saying that, like, I've seen every Star Wars
You
thing
have.
ever. I'm not as enamored with Star Wars as
You are.
some of my co-hosts. I watch it because of FOMO, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I gotta say that the only two times I've legitimately felt drawn to the universe has not been Empire Strikes Back or the prequels or Clone Wars. It has been Rogue One and Andor.
Yeah.
And to me, Andor is peak Star Wars.
Yes.
It's Star Wars for people with my sensibilities.
Yes.
I guess, a little bit. So yeah, let's begin with the resident black belt in Star Wars, Hardy here.
Let's go.
What do you think of Andor?
Oh, come on, man. Andor was a perfect Star Wars film. A TV series.
Yes, I was going to say that you were wrong on two fronts.
I know.
It's not perfect and it's not a film.
No.
But it's as close to perfect as
Yeah,
we
yeah.
get.
What I
Yeah.
meant by
Yeah.
perfect is because I think it hits all the marks of being a Star Wars property. It has that, it has that underdog story, right?
Yeah.
It has not the great villain, but rather the overarching empire that controls everything, right?
Yeah.
And it has this crew of people from all walks of life that have to kind of risk their lives for a better tomorrow, right? One thing about Andor that I felt was really, really powerful was the main actor himself, Diego Luna. I think his portrayal of Cassian Andor again brings this whole series to another level. He's also obviously it's also obviously well casted, lah, right? From Lucian to Mon Mothma to the weird security guy that got fired, like, and to the ISB agents and all that. Everybody is so well casted in this. The story beats are on point most of the time. Each episode, I mean, not episodic. I feel like because it's a greater narrative all around throughout the entire 12 episodes, right? But it is a very intriguing story, something that explores a part of Star Wars that is rarely explored. That doesn't have to deal with any Jedi's, doesn't have to deal with the Force, doesn't have to deal with the baggage of the Skywalker saga. Yeah.
Yep.
So again, and that was the beauty of Rogue One as well.
Yep.
Where it was a standalone story about this universe from another perspective.
There's the beauty of Mando as well.
Exactly. And I think Andor pulls that off really well. The world building is excellent, I feel. Ferrix is well fleshed out throughout the 12 episodes. The prison is well fleshed out in the episodes that it was there.
Yep.
Space Florida.
Space Florida, yeah.
Yeah.
Though if there's like only two to three scenes only lah.
I know, but I love Space Florida. Like, specifically, like that one techno track that they made as like the theme to Space Florida is such a banger.
It is. But obviously Ferrix is that point. Is one of those like flashpoints of the rebellion lah.
Sure.
And I think that build right from episode 1 to 12, you can slowly see the discontent of the people growing and growing as as the episodes pass by, especially to the death of spoiler alert. Yeah, but to the death of someone important like at the end, right?
Yep.
That culminates into this point of rebellion lah. Yeah. Yeah, and again, it also deals with a lot of complex issues. It's not your straightforward hero, Luke Skywalker kind of hero, right? It's a very complex hero in Andor. He's not a good guy, he's not a bad guy, he's a very grey character. Lucian especially, right? Where
Luthen.
Luthen, sorry. where he also has to do some dastardly things to make for the greater cause. I wouldn't say greater good, but the for to move forward the cause of the rebellion. Lah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all in all, yeah, it's something that Star Wars needs. Uh, in a way, again, Star Wars growing up, lah. Because again, Star Wars was actually meant for children. George Lucas famously said
Yep.
when questioned about the Ewoks. So yeah, so this is Star Wars but for adults. Yeah, and I had fun with it. 12 episodes, really good. Not much bad things to say about it, lah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. What about you, Isa?
Oh, I think the really interesting things that stand out for me for Endor, a couple of things, two things, right? Is that it doesn't, many parts of it does not look or feel like Star Wars, and I love that, right? That's one thing. The second thing is that Andor, much like Rogue One, does not suffer from Chosen One narrative, which
Yes.
is a perpetual problem with the whole Star Wars franchise,
Yeah.
right? And like, yes, we are following one man, right? But Cassian Andor is not the chosen one, and that to me is incredibly important because with everything that Lucas has done, and now Disney and Kathleen Kennedy, etc., like they've built this entire universe, right? And it feels like it's huge, and it feels like there are many things in it. But I think Andor might be the first time that you actually see a lot of that, like being able to see a specific part of the empire, the ISB, and its internal workings. This is the first time we've ever seen that,
Yes.
right? Outside of like the random Senate scenes that we get across multiple movies, right? That's about it. Like you don't know how the empire actually works, with the exception of maybe Clone Wars and Rebels to a certain extent, right? Like
Tales of the Jedi maybe a bit also.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
we get a little bit of that, but Andor dives deep into
Yeah.
Ferrix, into the ISB, into the genesis of the rebellion and the people that make it up. And it's not, the weight of it is not bared upon like one family and their fuck
Yes.
ups,
Yeah.
and that like is really important to me. Those were the things that I saw in Rogue One that really made me excited for the future of Star Wars. And Andor, I think, is the culmination of that, the realization
Yes.
of that,
Yes.
where there's process, where there's detail, where there is substantial enough time for character growth in a palpable way that we now know, because Rogue One has already, it's been a number of years.
You're right.
We now know culminates into something important within the canon lore of this universe, right? It's not about, sci-fi magic. It's not
Yes.
about some strange mysterious force. It's none of that. It's about the decisions that people make, in the face of struggle, in the face of trying to survive, in the face of the context that they find themselves in. And that's why to me Andor feels like an important series, right?
It is.
Like we got some of that with Mando, and Mando was fun, and Mando was its own thing within that universe that felt great. But this is the first time in a long time, I feel, since Rogue One, right? And maybe some stretches of Rebels and the Clone Wars, right? Where Star Wars feels real, right? Like I feel like I'm watching the lives of the people that live in this universe more than the myth.
Yes.
Every time we have the crawling screen at the beginning of any Star Wars movie, it reminds you that this is a myth. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, right? But Andor does none of that. Andor brings you in, right? And it is immersive in a way that so much of Star Wars has never been. And that's why, like, I agree with both of you. It's the best thing that's happened to Star Wars so far.
Yeah. I think like you pointed out specifically about the chosen one narratives that is so prevalent in Star Wars. Like, this is the first show about a group of people, a whole entire galaxy of people who are not chosen for anything.
Yeah.
There's also this idea that so much of the oppression that the Galactic Empire pushes upon the people seems so abstract. A lot of it is told in very dry Senate meetings in
correct.
the prequel trilogies where they're talking about taxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've never quite felt, I mean, outside of the Death Star blowing up planets, I've never quite felt the Empire being, this oppressive evil. Like, what is day-to-day life like in the Empire, right? And this show really illuminates that in a variety of interesting ways.
Yeah.
Um, like this is a very political show, obviously, right?
Also espionage thriller lah.
Yeah, a bit John le Carre and stuff like
Sure.
that, and it's very much like its predecessor Rogue One in that, like, which brought to life the once kind of anonymous rebels
Yes.
who captured the Death Star plans, and that's the driving plot of the first film. And Andor explores the stories of the more ordinary denizens of the universe, and the characters who are out of focus
Yeah.
when your space visits are on screen. You know?
Yeah.
And when I say politics, I don't mean that Andor is inherently a liberal or left wing or right wing show. I think what I mean is that the series attempts to imagine an internal politics of class culture and ideology that motivates its principal characters and also its fictional institutions.
Yeah.
The characters all come from somewhere. They feel rich, whether they be like wealthy in the glittering towers of the imperial capital of Coruscant, or they could be lower middle class. They could be poor and desperate, trying to survive in the Outer Rim. They have random things. They have like failing marriages, overbearing parents. They have ungrateful children. They
Yeah.
worry about debt and unemployment, and they worry about keeping their bosses happy. If the rebels are a motley band of idealists or fanatics and crooks, Andor's empire, a sprawling colonial power, is populated not just by stormtroopers, but by actual people like the bureaucrats, the strivers, the sadists, or even the actual responsible functionaries
Yeah.
who, if they are just allowed to do a good job, could have allowed this fascist government to manage its everyday business much more easily.
Yeah.
There's that, of a woman, but I forgot the name, but imperial spy master who's eager to prove herself more capable. There's Mon Mothma, a senator horrified by the recognition that a rebellion actually involves some fucking ugliness,
Yeah.
some real dirt and violence. Stuff that like people like Saw Gerrera and Luthen
Sacrificing one of their
recognized.
own.
Recognizing 50 of their own, recognizing it very easily. There is the young idealistic rebel who scribbles all the time in what I can only call his space moleskin. I love that what his manifesto is the thing that was overlaid in the series, or not series finale, season finale.
Yes.
And I love a particular moment when he said that we all have to try.
Yeah.
Which runs so counter to everything that Yoda has said, where you
There is no
don't
try.
do, you just try.
Yeah.
But we are normal people. We have to try.
Yeah.
That we can't just do
Not
it.
all of
We
us are
must
fucking
try.
Jedi.
It is efforts. It is perseverance. It is
Yeah,
resilience,
exactly.
and that's what makes them rugged and flawed and very grey. About all of this. This is the first time I've seen all these aspects of Star Wars that made it feel like a real thing.
Yep.
Andor did that for me. Is it a perfect show? I actually don't think so. My only complaint with the show is its formatting a bit, because it doesn't feel like a TV show.
Yeah.
Or neither is it written as a TV show. It's clearly written as like an 12 hour movie,
Yeah.
and they just cut it up at random parts, because every fucking final scene of each episode is so random
Yeah.
that they just like, oh, let's end this here lah.
Runtime really okay.
Yeah, runtime. Let's cut it off. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt.
You can totally tell, like, Tony Gilroy, while being a spectacular writer, has never done TV before, and that's clear, and that's my only complaint with it. But he is also a spectacular writer. Like,
Yes.
all the monologues is written from Luthen's monologue
Yes.
to Andy Serkis's
Kino
Star
Law.
Wars
Yeah.
Kino Law, the
Underrated.
Star Wars version of Apes Together Strong.
Yes.
Yes. I love it.
was fantastic. Even
the ISB agency is Deidre Miro.
Deidre, even Cassian's mom's monologue at the
Oh
end there,
my
so
God.
fight the Empire and all.
That was a good
All of it was so beautifully written,
Yeah.
so beautifully performed as well
Yes.
by all the actors involved. Everyone was great.
casted.
Even small characters like Bix or Andor's best friend who just helps him out, or even the guy who tries to turn Andor in like episode 2. Like, even I understood why he was doing what he was doing. Like, he wasn't evil.
No.
Everyone just felt so complex here, like even the minor characters. So yeah, like, really, really love the show. Final thoughts and ratings, Sadi.
Okay. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10.
Ooh.
Yep.
I feel that again, it expands on lore that has not been expanded upon. Again, well casted. Everybody, I agree with you. Everybody's complex. Everybody has a interesting backstory. And I like that they still do callbacks. They still do little Easter eggs here and there,
Yeah.
which is a very Star Wars thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this is, like I said, a very unique Star Wars show among Star Wars shows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what about you, Isa?
Oh man, I'm gonna give Andor an 8.5. I do think like the pacing could have been better, definitely. For
Yep.
sure, I do feel like certain storylines didn't make as much sense to occupy as much screen time as they did. Um, but overall, for like the first like major Star Wars TV series that's not under Favreau or Maloney, um,
Mm-hmm.
Filoni, sorry. Like Andor comes out kind of guns blazing, and I love it. Like it's the
Mm-hmm.
best writing we've gotten for Star Wars in forever, maybe.
Yeah.
And perhaps the best character growth as well. So yeah, it's a solid 8.5 for me.
Yeah, I'm giving this an 8.5 as well.
Nice.
Very, very close to, I mean, maybe not as enthusiastic as Hadi, but clearly we are all very enthusiastic about this. And 8.5 is a very high rating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love this show. I reiterate, this is my favorite Star Wars ever.
Yes.
And I enjoy Mando. I love Mando. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
I love Clone Wars and I love Rebels. And actually, the Tales of the Jedi was a really,
Really
really
good,
good,
yeah.
like short mini series as well. But this is the shit.
Yeah.
Will I be excited over Asuka
Sure.
like in February? Of course I will. But do I think it will be as deep and complex
No
as this?
lah.
No, I'm going to enjoy Asuka for very, very different reasons.
Yep. Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
And that's why I like
Yeah.
about Star Wars is there's now different kind of things for everyone,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a bit of a shame that Star Wars fans haven't embraced Andor, this being a very low rated show. A lot of people are not watching it. A lot of people are calling it slow, boring.
They're
Probably. Well, I mean, I don't want to say that, but you being the Star Wars fan,
I can.
Like, I know. My interactions with the Star Wars community have been very turn-offish, lah. Like I don't want to be one of them. You know what I mean?
No, I understand
They are
why. Because they're a bunch of idiots most of the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's very toxic. It's like it's not the same. Star Wars fans are very different from Trekkies.
Yeah.
Trekkies have a bit more like maybe because of the Federation lah, and the
Of course
principles
lah,
of
yeah,
the
like
Federation lah. That's why.
They grew up with those ideals.
Yeah. So that's why.
And Star Wars is all about individualism. Therefore, I am the one who is right.
Like I am the protagonist. I am the Jedi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you have a different opinion. Therefore, you must be the Empire, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Whether you be left wing or right wing, the other side is always the Empire. You're the
Correct.
evil one. I am always right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm more balanced
yeah.
because of the fact that I also love Trek lah.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you lah.
I mean, we all love Star Wars as well. We just don't interact with the fan community as much. Anyways, moving on to the first part of Quick Hits right now,
nice.
where I'm gonna review and talk about some of the films and TV shows that you guys may not have seen, but I have because it is my job. Firstly, I'm gonna be talking about season 1 of the TV adaptation of Interview with the
How
Vampire.
did that go?
As someone who has read, reread, and reread again the entirety, like all 26 books of Anne Rice's The Vampire
Wow.
Chronicles and its companion Lives of the Mayfair Witches books, they're all set in the same universe. I wholeheartedly approve of this TV adaptation of Interview with the Vampire. It honors the subtext while radically reinterpreting the text in so many fantastic ways and fascinating ways. As I've said many times, I personally dislike faithful adaptations.
Yes.
Whenever a showrunner or filmmaker goes like, yeah, I'm going to stay faithful to the text, I'm always going to be like, God, it's going to be so boring and predictable. I know it already. Why would I want to watch the same story play out beat for beat in a medium it was not designed for? I might as well just reread the source. This is why I loved Damon Lindelof's Watchmen and hated Zack Snyder's. This is why the super faithful first season of The Leftovers was so mediocre, while the radical departures of season 2 and 3 elevated the show to all-time greatness. This is why season 1 of American Gods was so promising, and why the Neil Gaiman-led later seasons failed so miserably. this Interview with the Vampire adaptation makes a whole lot of interesting changes that, frankly, improves upon the source material. Now, I'm a diehard Anne Rice fan. I've said this also, but I am not oblivious to her many, many, many literary flaws. This show constantly keeps me on my toes because I never know what to expect.
Yeah.
But while the details may have been altered, in fact, nearly all the details have been altered, the show keeps true to the mood and the themes of the novel. The result is a lavish and luscious series that breathes new life into the tired vampire genre. Yes, it's sometimes melodramatic and sometimes campy, but so were the books. The key is the performances of Louis, Lestat, and Claudia, and the trio are magnificent. The gay dynamics here are more overt than in the books or the film. The dysfunctional family dynamic also excels in ways that the 1994 film, perhaps due to runtime, failed to capture. The show will frustrate purists, I know, because I do interact with the Anne Rice fan community a lot online. But I, for one, could not get enough of it. And I'm very relieved that Anne Rice's complex, sensual creatures have survived the transition to series, to TV series intact. And I'm certainly delighted by the superb acting and rich production design on offer here, which is why I'm giving this an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, actually, Isa has seen the first 2 episodes.
Yes, I've
right?
seen the
What
first
do
two
you think about it?
episodes. I mean, like, I when it came out already, I think we were talking about this just before the show came out, right? And we were discussing, because we've already talked about Anne Rice on one of our Behold episodes,
Yeah.
as well. So I was super interested in like that, and we've been having to deal with a lot of adaptations, recently in general over the last 5 years. So I caught the first 2 episodes, and of course, like the hype and like the dislike is both very real online. But I'm really, really enjoying it, because I think you're exactly right. The fact is, I'm not as big a Anne Rice fan as you, but I think I have a pretty decent grasp of her work. This constantly catches me off guard, and it's pitch perfect in terms of the vibe and the emotional like notes that it hits every single time. And I've only watched 2 episodes. So I'm super excited to finish the rest of it. I'm glad to hear that you like it, and I'm looking forward to finishing up the series.
Nice.
It even satisfies me on very like nerd levels. Like I love the visual depictions of their powers.
Oh,
Which is
yeah.
very interesting visually.
Yes.
Yeah, those type of stuff is cool. Like wait till you get to the Claudia episodes, which are obviously the highlight of the
Okay.
book,
So,
of the film, and of the show.
where do we find this?
On AMC Plus.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, or other
Yeah,
things. But yeah, next up I'm gonna be talking about Barbarian.
Oh, yeah.
Barbarian is a horror film I recently watched on VOD. Barbarian is the kind of horror movie that defies expectations so often that I was left, frankly, speechless. Which is why you should go into it knowing as little as possible.
Okay.
Writer-director Zach Krager reveals a talent for storytelling here that horrifically marries the absurd and the relatable, and he's so good at steadily ratcheting up an escalating sense of tension that slowly pulls viewers into one of the most surprising and interesting horror scenarios you'll see in 2022 or any other year. So I would advise you to go into this as blind as possible, and which is why it's making this review a bit difficult. But here is the sparsest premise that I can offer, because I really don't want to spoil anything.
Go.
So it follows our main character of Tess, played by Georgina Campbell, who arrives at an Airbnb in Detroit to discover that it's been double booked.
Oh no.
Her surprise roommate Keith, played by Bill Skarsgård, seems nice, but his presence immediately unsettles Tess, who is this strange guy, living in my Airbnb. Keith eventually charms her into lowering her guard, but an eerie wake-up call raises those defenses when she discovers a secret passageway borrowed into her rental property's basement. The mystery of what exactly is going on in and below the rental house is compelling, because Tess does an excellent job of balancing, the curiosity and her and her fearful recognition that exploring it is a bad idea. There is a distinct impression that Tess has seen a horror movie or two, and she's careful not to make any horror movie mistakes, which I like from a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's all I can say. Besides, go and fucking watch this. It's not perfect by any means, but even discussing its minor flaws will reveal too much. I'll just say that the flaws are more than made up for with the film's quite shocking ambition. Don't read up, don't watch the trailer. Hell, forget this review at all. Just trust me on this. Like, it will continually surprise you. This movie never goes where you think it's going. There are 4 or 5 quite brain-bending twists that I just don't see coming, that changes the entire nature of the film. And it's thrilling and suspenseful, and it's filled with twists you won't see coming. It's an 8 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Nice.
Next up, let's talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
Hey.
So over the past few years, the MCU has become so popular that the characters have kind of almost become family, and fans know and love them so much that any chance to spend even 1 or 2 more minutes with them outside of their own films feels like a gift. And that's why the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special is so interesting and special. It allows fans the opportunity to spend some downtime with these beloved characters, resulting in a heartwarming and entertaining, but slightly superfluous experience. It's set between the events of Thor: Love and Thunder and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yeah.
The Guardians have a new home, they have a new ship, and they're kind of just going through the daily grind. We learn via an animated flashback how Peter Quill first introduced the idea of Christmas to the galaxy. And Mantis and Drax are so moved by the story that they want to give Peter a proper Christmas present.
Yes.
So they travel to Earth to abduct Kevin Bacon, played by the real Kevin Bacon. On the quest, the pair traverse Hollywood looking for the actor, getting into all sorts of hijinks. And once they find him, well, imagine you're Kevin Bacon and Drax and Mantis show up at your door. Like, things don't go well.
Yeah.
The story pays off incredibly well later on, with some really funny and lovely and magical moments at the end that kind of leave you feeling joyful or joyous, because that's what a holiday special should be. Is it essential to canon? No. But that is kind of the beauty of a fun one-off adventure like this. So many times we are caught with these myriad of characters doing season finale stuff. But I want to watch them just doing shit, like hanging out, having Christmas together, exchanging gifts, going drinking in the club, stuff like that, and I love that type of stories, more so than more so than them saving the universe again.
Yeah.
How many times can you see that happen?
Exactly.
I just want them to hang out, and this was such a fun hangout. For lack of a better term, episode, holiday special. You guys have seen this as well?
Yes.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Let's begin with you.
I really enjoyed it. I was reading a particular review about it, or rather, like, it popped out on my feed, and they were saying that this is Marvel's answer to the question, how do we deal with, like, content burnout, right? Like, our audiences are so tired of just the sheer amount of content we're doing now, and I think you're absolutely right. Like, character downtime is downtime for audiences as well, and I'm fully on board for the ride. I think having Kevin Bacon on board was just kind of like a stroke of genius. Like, I really, really enjoyed that. But, like, given its very short, like 30-ish minutes runtime, like, it packs so much, like, good stuff into that. It's fun to watch. It reminds us of the holiday season. It allows us to see the characters in different kind of contexts. I mean, what's not to like? Really solid. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. Like, I think if you are a Guardians fan, it's a must watch. Even though it's no particular impact on any kind of, like, future lore.
Yeah. What about you, Hadi?
It reminds me a bit. I mean, again, it's just a fun time, quick half an hour. Does nothing to the lore of the MCU, but it's so just it's sweet. It's fun. It reminds me a bit of, like, when Thor had his stay over with that Australian guy,
His roommate,
yes.
his roommate, right, Daryl, right, where they just do nothing, right? Same thing, like, same concept, I guess, in that sense. Just a bit more, budget, lah, right? Where you, so it's a sweet story, trying to make Quinn a bit less homesick and maybe less sad, because of all the things that happened to him. So I think it's a nice little friendly story, and it's a 7 out of 10. It's fun.
Yeah, it's 7 out of 10 for me as well. Let's move on though to a solo review by Hadi this time.
That's me.
Where he's going to be talking about the recent film directed by Oliver Wilde, starring Florence Pugh and Harry Styles, Don't Worry, Darling. What do you think about this, Hadi?
Don't watch this film.
Cool.
Oh man. Okay. The one thing that I have to say that it is an interesting concept that about simulation, about relationships with those community kind of relationships, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there was so many unanswered things. This movie goes on to open a bunch of mystery boxes,
Mm-hmm.
which they don't resolve. So it's very frustrating. Have you watched it, by the way?
Yes, I have.
Do
But
you walk out of it?
say again?
Do you walk out of it, or do you watch the whole thing?
No. I watched the whole thing. Primarily because I didn't watch it in the cinema, lah. So
Okay. Yeah, same. I didn't watch it
yeah,
in the cinema either.
I agree.
It's,
Don't watch this. Is my review.
yeah, don't watch this. It's a clusterfuck lah throughout the entire thing. There's very weird turns that this movie take that make no sense at all. The character's motivation doesn't make sense by the end of the movie itself.
Yep.
Characters do very weird things for no reason at all. Like, it's trying to be high concept, but it fails. It fails so badly. I think, yeah, I think this movie was too big for its britches, lah. And
Right.
yeah, I the writing was not great. It was it's like a overindulgent kind of film lah that really just sucks so badly. I give this like a 1 out of 10, man.
Cool. Yeah. About the same here, lah.
Yeah.
1 out of 10. Yep.
Don't watch this film. That's my number one number one advice. That's all.
Let's move on to.
And I love
Suru
Harry
review from-
Styles, by the way. I'm a huge fan of Harry Styles. So that's how bad this movie made me hate Harry Styles.
Oh, good God.
Harry Styles is an incredibly bad actor. You know?
He is
like
so
incredibly bad
The
actor.
policeman, what's it? Movie he's in?
Yeah, he is a detective, right?
Yeah.
In that other film with Saoirse Ronan, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
My God.
Yeah, he's terrible in that as well.
Yeah,
Stick to his day job.
Stick to the singing, please. I'm so sorry.
Definitely. I mean, this is coming from me and Hadi, the people who fucking watch pro wrestlers try to act.
Exactly.
And this is somehow like a lot worse than any of them.
Yes, My Policeman. That's why it's called. Please, Harry Styles, just sing because your music is so awesome. Okay, do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have to say in closing that I enjoyed the controversy around the film quite a bit.
I
yes.
enjoyed the controversy a lot more than the film itself. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It was very, very fun to read about.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't take any sides. I'm not like pro Florence Pugh
Neither
or
am I.
pro Orville Wilde or pro Harry Styles in real life. I just, as a person who has no investment in any of these people, I just like to sit back and like read about the shenanigans that happens at Cannes or whatever.
Yeah.
Spitting
I don't
on.
want to take a picture with you. I don't want to. I spit on your hand, stuff like that. You know, who's fucking who didn't show up on set.
Why they're not standing
love-
together?
Yeah, I love this type of things.
Yeah.
It's just like but that's just me. Let's move on though to something new on Netflix.
Yeah.
A new adaptation of the Addams Family. This time focusing on Wednesday Addams, called Wednesday. Isa has seen this. What do you think about Wednesday, Isa?
Oh man, yeah. So Wednesday is how do we simplify? I would say that Wednesday is a adaptation kind of spin-off of a coming of age supernatural comedy horror series directed by Tim Burton, starring Jenna Ortega, who Ethan and I absolutely love in
The Fallout.
Yeah, The Fallout, like an amazing performance. And I have mixed feelings about Wednesday, right? Like, I think Jenna Ortega does an amazing job with what she's given, which isn't a lot. But even then, like, she does an amazing job. With her portrayal of Wednesday, I think it's extremely different from what we got from OG Wednesday, aka Christina Ricci, who's also in the show. For that, Wednesday ends up being it ends up being a CW show, right? Like Riverdale, like Sabrina, in that same vein, perhaps done a little better. Imagine Wednesday Addams as a little more macabre Veronica Mars going to a school of monsters essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and like trying to explore the mysteries along the way, none of which really feel any kind of like consequential. I think
Mm.
my difficulty with this is that when they announced Wednesday, right, and they said that they were casting Jenna Ortega, I
Yep.
was looking for something a little darker and a little more, well, horror, right? There's very little
Mm.
of the actual macabre in the series itself.
Mm.
It also lacks the visual pizzazz that you would expect from a Tim Burton outing, right? Costumes are,
Really?
yeah, I think like it has an aesthetic, sure, and the costumes are great, but
No,
it,
no. I just mean that Tim Burton hasn't had visual pizzazz in like 20 years.
yeah, that is true as well,
Wow.
right? Yeah, but like because it's associated with the Adams family and that it has its
Yep.
own very strong aesthetic,
Very, yeah.
very little of that
Yeah.
applies here. Absolutely, very
Oh,
Yeah.
little that applies here. And
Yeah.
like I do think the costuming is great. Like you get a ton
uh-huh.
of just kind of like fan service because you essentially get Wednesday Adams cosplaying as a cat girl, as a pilgrim, as a student, as a
Wow.
waitress. Yeah, you get all of that kind of like fan service. You get some really like, you know, at first pass like sharp, witty one-liners from her.
Mm.
The unblinking kind of like stare all the time. Like all of that is interesting and like kudos to Jenna Ortega, but the show itself kind of runs around in circles.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I do want to shout out, however, the girl, I think Emma Mayers, who plays Enid Sinclair, this is basically
Mm.
Wednesday's roommate, who is this bubblegum werewolf, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I really, really loved her character, and it was like she played a great foil. I would have loved to see these two characters in something a lot more substantial. That being said, and here's where my mixed feeling comes in. Overall, I mean, people have spent many seasons watching Sabrina, myself included. People have spent like many seasons watching Riverdale. If that's your thing, this completely works in that. And overall, the show works. Like it leans into the camp of that. It leans into the absurdity and the silliness and the vacuity of the premise itself, right? I
Mm.
just think it's a bit of a waste to have a very outstanding actress in Jenna Ortega in something that is kind of okay only lah. So I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. I think like if you want to kind of turn off your brain and you want a little bit more of your goth emo schoolgirl detective story, sure, by all means, go ahead and watch Wednesday. It's
Mm.
worth a afternoon kind of like I got nothing better to do
Okay, okay.
time, but I wouldn't be too invested with like adding on to the law of Charles Adams or the original comics or even the original series for that matter. Sure. Shout out to Catherine Zeta-Jones, who still plays an amazing Morticia, and Luis Guzman has the most unnerving,
Mhm.
uh, the most unnerving. What's the father's name?
Gomez.
Gomez. Yes. Like there are these moments of like great performances, like kind of sprinkled throughout the 8 episodes, that
Mm.
doesn't really quite save the whole thing. But sure, I'll give it a pass. I enjoyed it overall as kind of like an easy watch, so it's 6.10 out of me.
Okay, yeah, yeah. That sounds fair. From all the reviews that I've read, it seems about similar as well. Yeah, definitely go watch Jenna Ortega in other genre
Oh
things if you want
yeah.
to. X, one of the best horror films of the year.
Hmm.
She stars in it as well. You may have seen her from You season 2,
Yeah.
which is also a fairly creepy premise, to be honest. And yeah, and the fallout about two survivors of a school shooting, which is really really great as well.
Yeah.
She has had kind of a really really good year. Obviously, Wednesday is her biggest role. She's making the most of the red carpet appearances, and whoever her stylist is having the
Oh.
time of her life,
Oh.
dressing her up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
seriously. Like,
Um,
yeah, she's doing really, really well, kind of like getting shopped around the carpet. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, available on Netflix right now. Now moving on to the second part of Quick Hits, where I talk about other films and TV shows that you may not have seen. This is going to be a quick one, guys. So bear with me. From one vampire novel adaptation featuring a preteen vampire child to another, this one I'm going to be talking about Let the Right One In.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Another
Much
one?
like Interview with the Yes, another one. Much like Interview with the Vampire, Let the Right One In also has to contend with a much beloved movie adaptation that's been out for years and years. This new series is yet another take on the acclaimed Swedish novel from 2008 that follows a 10-year-old vampire girl and her caretaker. The icy, masterful 2008 Swedish film is a certified classic, and the 2010
Mhm.
American update by Matt Reeves, starring Chloe Grace Moretz, proved to be, while not as great, fairly good. Unfortunately, this TV version is quite a dud. Let the Right One In the series attempts to build out a full season arc, but in stretching out the story, the series drowns its central characters in weird expositional dialogue and needless new plot devices. It just falls flat. It is a 4 out of 10 for me.
Ooh.
Next up, also on Netflix, 1899, coming to you from the creators of Dark. 1899 is a new mystery horror show. If you're familiar with Dark, you know that these German writers demand your patience. 2 3 seasons of Dark, very little made sense, and the show kept the growing audience largely in the dark. With their new show,
No pun intended.
1899, fun, very intended actually. With their new show, yeah, I wrote it down and everything.
Okay.
With their new show, 1899, the creators follow the same path.
Okay.
They are crafting a world shrouded in mystery and often confusion. They have a massive ensemble of European actors, and the mystery series follows a ship heading towards America from Europe. That's when they encounter another vessel that has been missing for several months. The captain then decides to investigate, setting off a chain of events which make little to no sense at first glance. As the episodes go by, more questions continue to pop up, with answers coming very sparingly. The German team of writers isn't rushing towards a conclusion. They take their time. They give several of their characters extended dream sequences. They inject new plot lines without a second thought. Still, most of the show's runtime concerns itself with the captain and another passenger called Emily, two characters who have experienced intense loss. And that's what the writers seem focused on, the impact of loss and grief on a person. The series really thrives when it centers on this examination of loss mixed with the unreliability of memory. You know, they weave together for a perplexing narrative and a density of themes to create a very singular experience, one that audiences know that the creators of Dark can achieve. Much like Dark, the story is non-linear, with characters walking in and out of scenes from their past as seamlessly as they walk in and out of a room. There's a lot of surrealism going on here, and that isn't the easiest genre to pull it off, but it's all over 1899. However, trying to understand why events are happening is, I'm going to say, futile. In fact, even trying to understand what is happening may take more effort than any TV viewer might want to expend. Part of that is intentional because of the large ensemble of international actors, all speaking their native language. It's a multilingual series, everyone speaking different languages. But the multilingual aspect would work better if the dialogue was simply better written. The biggest problem with 1899 is the same one that Duck struggled with: pacing. Mystery box stories rely on action getting more and more mystifying until the last few episodes make sense of everything using the available clues. Dark did this several times over, but creating the mystery often got in the way of telling an emotional story. That's what happened to Dark, and that's what happens to this show. At a certain point, it becomes difficult to care about what's happening or the emotional consequences of these characters beyond simply wanting to figure out how everything is connected. So, only a 7 out of 10 for me.
Oh, okay.
Next up, we're going to be talking about Strange World. Disney's latest animated feature is a Jules Verne-esque adventure. The movie follows the legendary Clades family, a family of explorers whose differences threaten to topple their latest and most crucial mission. What is their mission? Journeying deep into uncharted and treacherous land where fantastical creatures await them. This is a tale of a father trying to raise his teenage son more lovingly than his own dad raised him, and it kind of packs in plenty of sweetness, not to mention the acknowledgement of the importance of respecting other people's choices, even if they're not your own. But Strange World ultimately feels weighed down by both its predictable quest narrative and its daddy issue themes, which are also predictable. Worse than predictable, it fails to be as moving as one would hope. That's a consequence of poor writing. This is also a 4 out of 10 for me. Finally, I'm going to be talking about Disenchanted.
Oh yeah, how did that go?
Boy, it's been 15 years since Amy Adams' Giselle and Patrick Dempsey's Robert wed in Enchanted. But Giselle has grown disillusioned with life in the city, so they moved their growing family to the sleepy suburban community of Monroeville in search of a more fairy tale life. Unfortunately, it isn't the quick fix she hoped for. Suburbia has a whole new set of rules, and a local queen bee, played by Maya Rudolph, makes Giselle feel more out of place than ever. Frustrated that her happily ever after isn't so easy to find, she turns to the magic of Andalasia for help. Kind of accidentally transforming the entire town into a real fairy tale, and placing her family's future, in jeopardy. A bit like WandaVision, actually, to be honest. So Giselle is in a race against time to reverse the spell and determine what happily ever after truly means to her and her family. Now, the film is quite gorgeous to look at. It's prettier than
It
Enchanted,
is.
but Disenchanted fails to truly rekindle the magic or the biting wit of his predecessor. Amy Adams doesn't gain much outside of, I'm assuming, a fat paycheck by returning to the world of Enchanted, which is a cluttered and noisy sequel to an unexpected cult classic. It lacks the charisma and the wit and the intelligence of the original film, and this film will make everyone, again pun intended, feel disenchanted with the franchise.
It
So
is.
also 4 out of 10. You saw it, Hadi?
Yes, I did. Because I was a fan of Enchanted.
Yeah, we all are.
And
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Patrick Dempsey. So
From Grey's Anatomy,
yes,
right? Yeah.
and from his racing. Yeah, this was. I agree with you on all fronts. This was not a very good sequel. I like that they tried to be innovative and tried to make Giselle a bit more of an anti-hero kind of character, right? I think Maya Rudolph like overacted throughout the entire thing, but I think that's what she's there for.
I think that's what she was asked to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think she does it very well.
Yep.
But overall, it was a very messy story. It didn't really pull me in like the first one did. There was something magical about the first one that the second one. Yeah, you're right. Disenchanted is the feeling I have after watching it.
Definitely. You watched it on Disney Plus, is it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So did I. I saw you didn't watch this one, right?
Nope.
Okay, never mind. Yeah. Don't worry, darlings. Do not watch Don't Worry, Darling and Disenchanted. That's our episode. Recommendations. Next up, though, let's turn it over to Isa. He's going to be talking about a really immersive, innovative, quite unsettling audio play that myself and him and Chris Falk went to watch at the Esplanade Theatre just a few weeks ago. It is called Blindness, and it's adapted by Simon Stevens from Jose Saramango's acclaimed novel, and it is beautifully executed. It is one of the most startling and memorable theater experiences I've ever been to, if you can even call it theater.
Yeah.
What do you think about Donmar Warehouse's audio adaptation of Blindness, Isa?
Oh man. I've never read the novel, right? My closest approximation to that was the 2008 film starring Julianne Moore and Mark Ruffalo. It was a decent movie, I think. But I had I had an idea of what we were getting ourselves into based upon that, right? But this was a very, very kind of special kind of theater outing. Like every once in a while, right? A friend and constant collaborator, Chris Falk, and we'll head to the theater. We'll go and watch a bunch of stuff. I think this has been one of the most special and unique ones that I've ever been to. First things first, you don't sit in the theater; you sit on the stage, right? The people at Donmar Warehouse basically converted the Esplanade main theater stage into where you go through this experience itself. The chairs are arranged in pairs all across the room and spaced out in a very kind of specific way. Audience members are asked to turn off all of their electronic devices because it is a sound and light show, and any additional source of light will definitely kind of like spoil the experience itself. You go in, you put on a bunch of wireless headphones, and you kind of strap yourself in for the ride. I was sitting next to Chris. Hitz was a row away from us, sitting by himself.
Yep.
So maybe he can kind of chime in how different it was for
Mm.
him being not being paired up with a different audience member.
Mm.
The beginning of the the play, I guess, or this audio play, starts off with a bunch of narration, right? Like almost in your typical kind of like news report way, where the narrator kind of explains the setting you're in and all of that. About 10 minutes in, everything changes, right? The story takes on a point of view that is a lot more intimate and personal, right? At any given point in time, you as an audience member, you're not sure whose body you're inhabiting, but it is very clear that you are inhabiting someone's body. The timing of the lighting and the sound effects, and just like this hyper immersive 360-degree sound stage that has been created by the people at Donmar Warehouse is insanely the fidelity is insane, right? I'm sitting maybe about 10 cm away from Chris, right? I know that he is sitting there to my left, but throughout the entire experience itself, uh, it didn't matter, right? Like my knowing that there's a person that is within hand's reach of me is completely demolished by the oral setting of the stage itself and the well-timed um, use of lights
Mhm.
amidst us sitting in a constant state of pitch black darkness. Yeah, just because I don't want to kind of like spoil what the full experience is going to be like. I mean, if you want to know what the story is about, please go ahead and read the novel. As Hidze mentioned, it is a well acclaimed one. If you can't be bothered, you can also go and watch the movie. It's not bad. But essentially, like um, the the people at Donmar Warehouse, for their adaptation of Blindness, turns what one would think of an audio play on its head, just in terms of the experience that you get while you are there. It is frightening and immaculately kind of timed. The acting done by the voice actors, well, it's not just voice actors, right? Because they're constantly moving around the space and moving around you as they kind of go along, is terrifyingly accurate, and it always constantly feels like there is someone present with you within that space, despite at the back of your mind you know it's not physically possible for an actor or a character to be there.
Mm.
Yeah, the sound design is so good, so good, you know. Unfortunately, Blindness had a very short run here in Singapore. We managed to catch it on the last day,
Yep.
um, for the entire thing. But if you're listening to this and for some happenstance you manage to spot this being put on again, please, please, please go and watch it. It is by far one of the most interesting and exciting and challenging theater experiences that I've ever had.
Mhm.
Easily, it's a 8.5 out of 10 for me. What about you, Hits? How did you feel?
Similarly to you, like you said, like I don't think it mattered if someone was sitting next to me,
Mm-hmm.
because, well, the premise of the story is that the entire world is going blind due to an epidemic of blindness, and no one knows what's causing it. You yourself are kind of put into the position of one of the blind protagonists here, being led along by his fiance or wife, I forgot,
Yeah.
partner, lah, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So the majority of the play, you're kind of sitting in the pitch black.
Yep.
So all and you're guided along by this woman in your headphones,
Yep.
and it's such a immersive oral experience because they use something called 3D sound,
Yep.
and you can get an accurate sense of space.
Yes.
She's on your left, she's behind you, she's in front of you, she's getting attacked, she's fighting,
Yep.
stuff like that, and you're just kind of helpless to you're just kind of sitting here helpless because you kind of want to help, but I mean, you can't. You're blind. You don't know
Mm-hmm.
where she is.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. It's very unsettling and it makes you feel quite powerless. And that's the intention of the story, lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very very well done. Also an 8.5 out of 10 for me. Probably the most interesting theater experience I've had in my life. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, So if you guys, manage somehow if they're going to stage it again, because I think it was extremely popular, please go check out Donmar Warehouse's adaptation of Blindness.
Nice.
Yep. We are capping this off with Hadi, who has 2 reviews for us.
Wow.
Mhm.
Firstly, he's going to be talking about a new Netflix horror series
Yeah.
based on a series of Singaporean books, Goosebump-esque horror books for kids. It's called Mr. Midnight. It's been adapted into live action on Netflix. I understand that your wife was involved a bit in the production of it. Her company was involved in the production of it. So you have a bit more insight than I do. What do you think of Mr. Midnight, Hadi?
Well, certain good things, certain bad things. Overall,
Sure.
this TV series is definitely for kids. Maybe ages 8 to 12 lah. The storyline is very very basic, very linear. There are certain aspects of it which I find interesting because they explore certain law of the paranormal in associated with Southeast Asia, which I always enjoy. Things like the Hutan Lahir, the Jikiniki, the Pontianaks, and all that kind of usual monsters of the week kind of feeling.
Agreed.
That's what the series you can expect from the series.
Yep.
And to an extent, the costume design and all that sometimes it's cute, for the monsters, it
Right.
goes from cute to slightly scary, but mostly it's quite comical and quite non-threatening lah. And again, maybe this is because it's for kids. It's more suited for kids. So I don't really like. It's not really a very big thing for me lah. In terms of the acting itself, I think the main character, TR, played by, let me see, what's his name? Oh no, I had his name here just now.
It's okay.
Yeah, but
you can find it.
Yeah, so anyway, TR, the main character, he does a really good job. His emoting, I think, is very well done. And the other one of his best friends, Ling, also does a really good job. She plays Lim Yu Bing's daughter in this lah. However, there's a lot of also bad acting overall from a lot of the side characters lah, which can take away from this series itself. Yeah. There's certain logical leaps that you have to take to kind of follow the story, some things, and some of the writing can be a bit lazy, like just to conclude the story for the week, you know what I mean? Yeah, so it's not a perfect series. I think it's a good first attempt at adapting a book series that has like 126 books or something like that.
Amazing that it comes out of Singapore also.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I think it's a very good effort for a first season. I would recommend you let your children watch it. It's a fun like Saturday afternoon kind of binge. If you want to, if your kids got nothing better to do lah.
Okay.
So I'll give it about like a 6 out of 10 lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, though, you're going to be talking about something on Warhammer Plus called Hammer and Bolter. What's that all about, Hadi?
So it's an anthology series exploring. So Warhammer Plus is a subscription service for Warhammer products, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. I just want to say that I'm very, very tired of people just naming their services plus something.
Yeah, it's very
Apple
lazy.
Plus, Disney Plus. Well, it's so lazy. Come up with something else, please.
Yeah. So
anyways, continue.
Yeah. So no, but I agree. Hammer and Bolter is an anthology series that actually explores the world of Warhammer 40k. It's a grim dark sci-fi slash fantasy kind of setting lah. I think it does really well in. I mean, if you're a Warhammer fan, I suggest you actually make time to actually watch these things lah. It does really well to embrace the setting of the world. The stories, some of them are very familiar because they're stories from the multiple books from the Black Library and all that, where people already have known for decades now. If you're a hobbyist, right, of the like me, with the Warhammer series,
Mm-hmm.
definitely you will enjoy most of it, lah.
Yep.
There's Warhammer Plus does have a lot of other little series. They've been hiring, actually. Okay, on YouTube, right? They have a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
creators that create like fan videos,
Mm-hmm.
where they are really good at like 3D art and 3D like 3D videos and all that, lah, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get what you
Yeah.
mean. Yep.
So one of them was this series called Astartes. Was created by one guy. So actually, Warhammer bought over his entire property and put it on
Mm.
Warhammer Plus.
Oh
Yep.
wow.
And that's what the company, Games Workshop, has been doing. They actually been getting all these graphic designers, all these creatives, right, and actually getting all their properties to be put onto Warhammer Plus, lah. All
I
this like
see.
fan
Okay.
art and fan series and all that stuff.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so in a way, I don't know, maybe it's cornering the market or something. It's
Mm-hmm.
having a mixed thing with fans right now because they feel like it's Games Workshop trying to consolidate all their properties, lah.
Mm.
Mm.
But it's also them going into more animation and all, and there's a lot of things slated for the future. So Warhammer Plus is gonna grow to quite a substantial amount of content, lah. The only issue
Okay.
is that if you're not a Warhammer 40k fan, I don't know whether you want to invest into something like this.
Ah.
But if you do, I feel that a lot of the things that's offered to you, like Hammer and Bolter, for example, is a good way to actually get into the vibe of what this whole hobby is about, lah. You know,
Okay.
yeah, something like that, lah.
Cool. Okay. What is the like? Do you have to pay for subscription and stuff like that?
Yeah. It's about like $7 plus per month, lah.
Oh wow, that's actually quite a bit
Yeah, it is. But
comparative to the
again,
others, lah.
yeah, again, it is. If you're involved in a hobby and all that, it's a good like addition to a lot of the things you're already doing. Like
I
they have like a
see.
lot of videos on like playing of the hobby itself, to painting the models and all that stuff. Apart from all the original content that like Hammer Bolter, lah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
but again, if you're not a fan of Warhammer, you might not want to do this. Yeah,
I mean, clearly, lah. Why would a non-fan of Warhammer subscribe to Warhammer Plus?
exactly.
Yeah, you don't even want like Warhammer normal, you know. So yeah, great news out there for Warhammer fans, I guess.
Yes.
Go catch out Hammer and Bolter on Warhammer Plus. Next month we'll be back for more genre equality.
So
The
fun.
first of the year, as always. We'll be covering what is, in my opinion, a top 10 film of the year. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio,
Mm.
debuting on Netflix on the 9th. Hadi and Isa will probably be talking about Avatar 2,
Yeah.
Way of the Water. They will also probably be covering The Witcher Blood Origin. I'm not a Witcher person, so I usually hand it over to
Sure.
them.
Mm-hmm.
This one is Michelle Yeoh, right?
Yep,
Yes.
that's right.
Okay, I might watch it because it's Michelle Yeoh. I will be covering Star Trek Prodigy, the new series based on Willow on Disney Plus called Willow. We're talking about an adaptation of Kindred. That's going to be out soon, so that looks interesting. I'm not going to say fun, like, it's about slaves, you know. So
Yeah.
it looks interesting. Probably the biggest thing that we'll be talking about is Isa's anime corner, which is
Yeah.
the meat and
Oh.
chunk and the real highlight of the next genre equality,
Yeah.
because of just the sheer number of outstanding anime returning and new that's out right now.
Yeah. It's stacked.
Plus finally,
Mhm.
yeah, it's stacked, and finally I'll be talking about Farscape right at the end there to cap off quick hits classics. What are you most excited to talk about, guys? I know Isa has a lot lah.
Yeah, I've got a ton of stuff to kind of like discuss and remember. A lot of the series that come back like have like a lot of nostalgic meanings for me, and there are a couple of like new stuff that's come out that has been pretty good. So it's a fair bit to kind of cover. And given that by the time we will be moving on to the new season of anime in a couple of weeks, by the time the episode comes out. So this is going to kind of serve as more of a review anime corner than necessarily a recommendation that we usually do.
Definitely. Hadi, what about you? Like, what anime or what show are you going to talk about?
Wow. honestly, I still thinking about it, but on did you say anime?
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about anime too, of course. I'm sure you're following several of the shows that we are also following.
Yeah. But most probably I'm looking towards talking about most probably like My Hero Academia, lor.
Mm.
I do have to say, god damn, this season has been like banger after banger.
Yeah.
It's just like non-stop
Yep.
action.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's like
it's
they
like
spent the entirety of last season to build up to
today's season.
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
Yeah,
This season just feels like it's going to be like 12 straight hours of just like a 12-hour action
it's been
sequence. You know what I
crazy
mean?
so
Mhm.
far, lah.
It's yeah. I've not been digging My Hero Academia, to be honest, for the last 2 seasons, but this season is just balls to the wall,
It
man.
has
I'm
been,
really
yeah.
enjoying it.
Yeah.
I feel that Mob Psycho is probably still the
It
best
is.
enemy out
Yeah,
there
yeah.
right
Mob Psycho
now.
is the
So
best.
solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoy Chainsaw Man. I really enjoy the new Bleach. I really enjoy Spy Family and all that. But there's something different about Mob Psycho. It
It
just feels
is.
better.
Yeah.
We'll probably delve deeper into this next month, lah. But I have been a bit let down by To Your Eternity season 2.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
I'm not super digging it
We
at
will.
all.
We will talk about that. We will talk about that.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, yeah, Pinocchio and everything. Plus, myself and Isa will be talking about the best shows and films of 2022 coming up on Behold. So look out for that one.
Noise.
Till next time, guys. This has been Hit
I'm
Zero.
Hardy.
Amisa.
Goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Ciao.